Twice this trip was cancelled, and it was nearly cancelled a third time yesterday. Meetings in Downing Street about whether the Prime Minister should come here at all, whether he should stay in London to fight off Labour's motion demanding an investigation into whether the Prime Minister had misled Parliament, and rally his own troops. But he came here, and meanwhile back in London, the whips did the maths and thought they were just too dicey. There were too many rebels, too many people who drifted out of Parliament during the day, and some talk that some ministerial aides had thought of resigning. The word from Number 10 today is there's nothing to see here. This was all about making sure that any investigation came after the police and Sue Gray had shared their thoughts on what had gone on in Downing Street. But the truth is, what happened in Westminster today has seriously derailed this attempt by Boris Johnson to turn the focus elsewhere. Boris Johnson comes to Prime Minister Modi's home state of Gujarat just as the welcome is cooling back home. There is a trade deal to be discussed here, which Boris Johnson says he wants signed off this year. On the plane over, he indicated that could include a sweetener from the UK offering easier visas to Indians who wish to fill gaps in the UK labour market.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Boris Johnson visited Mahatma Gandhi's ashram this morning. He said investment from India and possible jobs were the sorts of things voters in the UK were really interested in, not who did what when on COVID breaches in Downing Street. But Boris Johnson knows the issue for some voters has lasting potency. And while he's out here, many back home are looking at their postal votes just arriving on doormats for the elections in 2 weeks' time, which might trigger a move against him by some of his own MPs. Just after Boris Johnson had finished his tour of this temple, I caught up with him and asked him about his reaction to the climb down, the U-turn in Westminster on the investigation into whether he'd misled Parliament. You're the first Prime Minister to
Come to Gujarat since 1978.
Well,
how about that? I bet you weren't going to say that.
That's quite
how about
light-hearted and bold. I was going to
Not
say the
light-hearted,
first
it's
Prime
absolutely
Minister to be fined for breaking the law in office and referred to the Privileges Committee, as it happens, for misleading the Commons. First Prime Minister in British history. Is that an accident, or does it tell us something about you?
Look, I've said a great deal about that issue.
You think that'll do?
Tuesday, on Wednesday, you're asking quite an abstract question. My job is
some people might not think so.
My job is to get on, and I appreciate the people's anger and disappointment about this issue, and I apologise and again for the FPN that I received. There is not much more, Gary, that I can say about this until the conclusion of the investigation.
Let me give you a specific moment that we are living in right now. As I speak to you, there is a debate going on in the House of Commons. The Speaker of the House of Commons has had to allow a special dispensation that the Prime Minister of the nation can be referred to as a liar in debate. Is there any way back from this?
That's a matter for him. That's a matter for him.
It sounds like it might be a matter for you. I'm accumulating quite a list of things here.
Gary, I can comment on this thing once the investigation has been concluded.
You've commented on it.
And I will come back and I will say more.
What's interesting now is you've commented on it quite a bit, and support amongst some of your own MPs, people who've been very loyal to you, is drifting away. Steve Baker, your fellow Brexiteer, voted for you as leader, admitted today he's very fond of you. He said Boris Johnson abandons contrition the moment he leaves the headmaster's study. Well, you've got a point there.
I'm extremely contrite for my mistakes, and I've said that,
but then
and I repeat it.
You do that, and then you go and say something else.
But Gary, the reality is, I also have to get on and deliver on the priorities of the British people, and I have to take our country forward. And this is the issue. The issue before us today is how much of my time and my energy can I expend on on apologising, and what should I be?
And what Steve Baker's done the maths on that. He's decided that actually you're the problem. You're like a piece of flypaper that attracts controversy all the time, so all these other things don't get talked about.
Yeah.
And your MPs, quite a lot of them, you know this because you pulled the vote, they think you're a drag on their party.
Yeah. What I think is that I'm the person who solved some of the biggest controversies that have afflicted
Some of them would say that. Steve Baker would say that. But he says it's time up.
Well, you know, I respectfully disagree. I don't think there is.
The list is quite long.
I hear it.
And it's groundbreaking.
I don't think, frankly, that there's any other government that could have got Brexit done in the way that we did. I don't think there's any other government that would have rolled out the vaccines as fast as
he might say both
we
of those.
did. Frankly, I don't think there's any other government that would have come up with a policy to try to fix, and I know it's difficult, try to fix the problem of small boats, the drownings in the Channel, in the way that we are.
Well, if there's time, I'd like to come back to that.
We do some very, very difficult things. By the way, I don't think there's any other government in recent times that would have had the gumption to help the Ukrainians before any other European country had thought of it, by sending them weapons to defend and protect themselves. Now, I give you those as examples of things that this government
on Ukraine. Let me just ask you about that.
I don't think that any other government would have done.
The argument's been put about that you need to keep Boris Johnson there because he's been so strong on Ukraine.
I don't say that.
Ukraine unifies your party, doesn't it? You don't think there's a Chamberlain out there to your Churchill who'll undo the whole thing, do you?
No.
So it won't affect it. It'll be fine. Get rid of you.
Look, I think
Ukraine policy would stay the same.
My job is to focus on the things that matter to the people of our country, and that's what I'm doing. I understand that a lot of people are hurt, angry, upset about what happened in Number 10. I've apologised and I continue to apologise.
But that's the worry. People are not sure you mean.
I can't say much more about it until the investigation is concluded.
Well, how about this?
I will say more then. In the meantime, and this is the point I was trying to make to my colleagues, in the meantime, I've just got to get on and talk about the things that I think will really make a long-term difference. So here we are in India, which I don't think you've... I tried to get it in, I shoehorned it in at the beginning. But
I must admit, this whole interview would have started with India if events hadn't taken a very strange turn in London. And I think you can understand that, and a lot of your own MPs are concerned. Can I ask you, because you talked on the plane on the way out here about when you were asked, what is the threshold in your mind for the thing you could do that would trigger your resignation? And you said, not a lot springs to mind. And I want to put a specific to you. If it turned out that the office you preside over, the building you preside over, attracted more fixed penalty notices than any other location or event in the history of lockdown, might that be a cause for resignation?
Well, you're asking me to comment on stuff I don't know about, and that is still...
I can tell you, because I think it already has broken that record. Well, I've been looking around, and the most I can find is a student party that got 28. Right. There are 50 in the building you preside over. That must tell us something, mustn't it? 50 and growing.
Yeah. I will be able to say a lot more about all that type of question once the investigation is complete, and you'll be able to judge for yourself a lot more about my own role. So that I think is, it's a fair question, but you've just got to wait for the thing to end.
You didn't want this inquiry to happen.
In the meantime,
the privileges investigation, you didn't want it to happen. That's what your MPs were worried about. And they see that as symptomatic of a guy who doesn't want too much scrutiny.
Look, what I don't want is, what I don't want is for this thing to become just go on and on and on. And I'll be honest with you, I think we've had one inquiry. We've had one inquiry. We've had a police inquiry.
It's a very serious matter.
And I think that there's got to be a way of drawing a line under it. But if colleagues want to have more scrutiny of this, then as far as I can say, that's what the opposition want, then that's fine. Let's do that.
How tough are you going to be in your discussions with Prime Minister Modi, bearing in mind that this is a country that hasn't fully, comprehensively condemned Russia's behaviour in Ukraine? It is getting a lot of criticism about civil rights, about attacks on minorities, particularly Muslims. Are you going to take him apart on all of that?
Well, I've already taken it up with him, and I will continue to do so. They have condemned the atrocities that took place in in Bucha, but the Indians have a long-standing relationship with Russia that is very different from ours. I think we need to understand that. What we can do as the UK is work together to build an alliance of democracies against autocracies and tyranny everywhere.
It'll sometimes mean turning a bit of a blind eye. The nature of the times we live in.
No, I'll continue to make the points to Prime Minister Modi that I have, but I think the potential for friendship and partnership between the UK and India is enormous, and the potential for trade and investment is enormous, and that's what I'm here to promote.